Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today for Simon Says Stamp, and I am sharing 3 Shimmer Inlay Christmas cards with you featuring new dies from the Simon Says Stamp December 2019 release, as well as some other dies and stamps from Simon Says Stamp. We're going to be creating these gorgeous inlay backgrounds with layered dies. We're going to do some interesting stamping in the background and then layer on some die cut greetings and stamped greetings on banners to finish the cards off. I'm going to start with the Shimmer Snowflake die. This is one of the brand new dies from the December release. We're going to go ahead and tape this in place on some Simon Says Stamp smoke gray cardstock. You can cut these dies apart to use them in different ways. However, I left mine together today to create my card since I'm going to be creating an inlay. I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to remove all of those teeny tiny pieces from inside. I'm taking the Spellbinders tool-in-one, and you can see the extra tools can be kept in the barrel, but I'm going to pull down this little piece here. That's how I remove the stylus, and I'm going to insert this great little tool that you can run over the surface of your die, and look, it pops out all those intricate pieces. This is a huge time saver, and I highly recommend using that tool-in-one with a foam mat of some sort like this Spellbinders piercing mat, as it works really well. Next, we're going to take the frame that we die cut, so just the outside piece, not the actual snowflake itself, and we're going to add a little interest to that background with a plaid stamp, and we're going to build a plaid stamp. I'm using the Concord and 9th plaid background to do this. We're first going to stamp the all-over design on our background using a tone-on-tone ink. So for this one, I am using smoke cardstock and the smoke ink from Simon Says Stamp. I'm positioning my cardstock in my MISTI slightly away from the edges. This is not how you would normally use it if you were going to stamp. However, this works really good here because it allows you to get all areas. If you butt it right up against the sides, it often won't stamp those. So I just move mine down a little bit. But I've got some adhesive on my paper there in my MISTI to help hold that in place so it doesn't shift. Then I'm going to press really firmly all over the background. I love creating my own plaid patterns, and I think the plaids work really great for holiday. Once I have stamped my background, I'm just going to pop this out. It looks a little bit darker than it does in the finished card because we are using a dye ink, and that is going to absorb into the paper a bit and fade slightly as the ink dries. Next, I'm going to take the double stripes to finish building my plaid. And on this, I'm going to actually just use an acrylic block and stamp these in kind of the lighter areas. So we're going to go all the way across using the Simon Says Stamp white pigment ink. And I'm so sorry about my head in the way. I kept really getting over top of my project, wanting to make sure that I had it lined up correctly. Because I'm not using the MISTI, I really tried my best to get it as straight as possible. It's not perfect, but I kind of almost like that about this project. If you love building plaid backgrounds, this is one of my favorite stamp sets. It's been out for a few years now, and I still continue to love using it to create all kinds of gorgeous plaids. When you inlay the snowflake then, you can definitely see the definition since there is no stamping on that design. In addition to the Shimmer Snowflake, we're going to be using the Joyful dies, which has the outline as well as the die cut area or the die cut word, and then we're going to be using a sentiment from the Ho Ho postage stamp set and a nested banner to die cut that sentiment. I'm trying out some different glitter cardstocks back behind my snowflake to create that shimmer effect. These are called the Shimmer dies, all of the 3 dies that I'm using today, and you definitely don't have to, but I decided I wanted to use glitter cardstock back behind to really pop. So I'm just going to cut a scrap of white glitter cardstock here to layer back behind my snowflake. And then I kind of contemplated popping it up. I played around with this quite a bit, trying to decide if I wanted it popped up or not. I'm just going to use some pencils here. But ultimately, I decided that I liked the inlay a little bit better. But this, holding it up with some pencils, gives you an idea of what it would look like if you decided to pop that up. Then I'm going to die cut the joyful word 3 times from smooth white cardstock and stack them one on top of another, and 1 time from the white glitter cardstock, and we're going to finish with that one on top so that our sentiment is really pretty and glittery. I think this works really well for picking up the glitter layered back behind our inlay snowflake, as well as adding that sparkly festive touch to our card design. Don't forget the dot for the letter J. I have all those little pieces set aside, and I will add those separately because they're so teeny tiny. And I'll show you how I add those to my project here in a second. Let's go ahead and put adhesive all over the back panel of our snowflake. So this is the frame for our shimmer snowflake. And I want to get adhesive all over this. Then we're going to layer the white glitter cardstock back behind that. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. No one's ever going to know. Then we're going to take some Lawn Fawn glue tube and glue our snowflake in place for that inlay design. You could also switch this out and use a different color of cardstock if you wanted to. I love the tone on tone and how great this turns out. One thing I particularly love about these plaids is I think they're great cards, not only for anybody, but for men. They're not over the top girly, especially this first one in the grays. So if you're looking for a great card for a guy, this would be a great option and a great color combination. The outline for the word joyful was die cut from some vellum cardstock, and I ran it through a Xyron sticker maker to make the entire back sticky so I didn't have to worry about hiding adhesive. This is very faint, but it does help pop the word just a little bit off of that background by giving it that beautiful shadow, but yet it doesn't cover up the shimmer snowflake. Then we're going to glue the word joyful right on top of our outline, and then take our glue tube and the crystal katana and pick up all of these little dot pieces and stack all of those white cardstock die cut dots on top of each other, finishing with the white glitter little dot on top. That looks perfect. I love how this is looking. That word joyful is just the perfect size to go for any kind of card, really. I love this die. I'm going to put some a acrylic block on top to help hold that flat while the liquid glue is drying. Next, we want to finish off the sentiment, and I always love to combine a small stamped phrase with a larger die cut sentiment. In this case, I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the Ho Ho postage stamp set on a scrap of smoke cardstock. We're going to stamp Season's Greetings on some smoke cardstock. I'm not going to worry about lining that up along the upper half. Anywhere on here is fine. We're going to use a powder tool first to make sure that our embossing powder only sticks to the stamped area. We'll stamp Season's Greetings with a clear embossing ink, heat emboss with the Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder, and then we're going to die cut this after we've heat embossed it with one of the smallest kind of flag end nested banners dies. I've mentioned this several times, especially here lately. This is not a brand new die from Simon Says Stamp, but it's one of my most often used. I love banners and borders like this that will die cut your little thin strips into decorative edges, and it just looks so amazing and finished and polished, and it's one of my favorite things to do. So I've die cut the little Season's Greetings phrase, and then we're going to figure out a creative way to attach this so that it is kind of on the same layer as our popped up joyful word. And to do this, I find what works really great is to kind of lay it out and see how it's going to look on the card. And I don't want to completely cover up the long tail on the letter Y. I'm going to have it overlap a little bit. So I won't put foam adhesive under the part that overlaps, but underneath the rest I will. And I'm going to shift it over to the right as I feel like that looks the best with this particular design. Finally, we're going to add some embellishment and sparkle, additional sparkle to this card with some pretty pink posh pearl white jewels. And these just really pick up the beauty of the sparkly glitter cardstock back behind the shimmer snowflake. And I am going to place little dabs of glue in areas of the design and then pick up those rhinestones with a crystal katana and place them down where they go, keeping my fingers out of it. And when I tip this kind of at an angle, I think you can see the beautiful gemstones. We're going to work on the Shimmer Wreath card now. Again, I'm using the Spellbinders Tool-in-One to remove all those little bits and pieces from that die cut wreath. It works so fantastic. You get them out fast. If anything doesn't pop out, then you can take the piercing end of the tool and pop any of those little pieces out. It's so handy and works awesome. Then I can simply just take this whole mat over to a trash can and dump all those little bits and pieces inside. I'm going for another kind of non-traditional Christmassy color background with my second card. My first card was all in shades of gray and white. This one's going to be in navy and silver with white. So definitely trying to kind of work outside the norm as far as Christmas colors until we get to our final card. Definitely got to throw in one of those traditional ones here. But I love this. I love deep dark blues and silvers for Christmas. So for this one, we need the frame and the little inside piece. So I'm again just going to position those in my MISTI. I'm using the Shimmer Wreath as a guide. And then we'll pop that out because we don't want to stamp it. And I have left the Concord and 9th plaid background in my MISTI. So this time we will ink it up with Lawn Fawn Deep Sea ink and stamp the entire background as well as the little circle with our plaid for a tone on tone. And this one is really deep and dark. You can see it in the right light for sure, but it's very subtle. And then we will be stamping a little white plaid with this. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this in my MISTI. And the reason is because that circle in the middle of the wreath is not attached to anything, and it's kind of, I've temporarily adhered it inside my MISTI, it's not going to shift. So it's really easy to stamp my lines going back and forth. So I'm just going to stamp all those little white pigment lines to build my background. This card is created just like the last one. So all the steps are basically the same. We're just going to use a few different little embellishments. Our first card didn't really have embellishments. It just is featuring the shimmer snowflake. It's got the die cut big word in the center, a little stamped phrase on a banner, and then some gemstones. Our next card, this card, the wreath, the Shimmer Wreath, this one's going to feature a die cut bow using the Simon Says Stamp Perfect Bow Die. I've die cut this from smooth white cardstock. We're going to assemble this. I'm kind of wrapping it around a pencil to help curve that cardstock a little bit to have it get a little bit more of that curved edge to the bow. We're going to assemble that perfect bow and glue it to our wreath, and then again use a die cut word. But this does feature an additional die cut. It is December after all, and so it's always a great time, but it's especially a great time in December to showcase and feature all of the great dies that are available from Simon Says Stamp. So I have glued the main portion of the bow together. We're going to take this small long rectangle then and wrap it around the center to give it that nice finished look. One little tip that I will tell you when working with any type of bow assembly is a pair of tweezers is so handy for pinching that shut and holding it together while a liquid glue is drying. The final step is going to be gluing the tails to the back of the bow and then gluing that to our card. This time, instead of white glitter cardstock back behind, we're going to use silver cardstock. So this is definitely a navy and silver themed card today, which I absolutely adore. And we're going to just pinch that little bow, and it's time to assemble. So let's put adhesive on the back of our frame and start our inlay. We're going to back this then with the silver glitter cardstock. I cut it just a little smaller than my panel. We're going to put glue all over the back of the shimmer wreath and then inlay that piece and finish off with that middle plaid piece. Now most of this will get covered up with embellishment, but you can still see remnants of it, and I definitely want you to be able to see that plaid design all the way through. We're going to glue the bow to the top of our wreath, and then we'll work on adding our die cut sentiment and our stamped phrase, as well as adding some more of those awesome pretty pink posh jewels to our shimmer wreath design. Isn't that wreath beautiful? This card actually is super pretty, just like this. You could put a sentiment anywhere. I tend to like to group my elements together. Anytime I can layer them, I really like that. I did play around with placement a little bit, but ultimately decided I thought through the center was the best. To help with the bow, I'm going to have one of the tails back behind the sentiment and one up on over the top of the sentiment. Just like with the first die cut card with the shimmer snowflake, we are going to die cut the shadow for the word from vellum, run it through a Xyron sticker maker, and adhere it to our card. And then we've die cut the word Mary 3 times from smooth white cardstock, gluing them one on top of another and finishing with a die cut silver cardstock word. We're going to position that right on top, glue that in place, or go ahead and glue that in place. I've got my stamped banner already. This is actually from the Tiny Words Christmas stamp set, this phrase is. And we're going to put adhesive on the back, foam adhesive, and place this right on our card. So this time it's going to be shifted over to the left a little bit, just because I think that works better with the design. We're going to take our crystal katana and the jewels, and we're going to adorn the center of some of the flowers in our design. Anything that's still showing. If loops of a bow are covering up a flower, I am not going to move those bow loops to put a gemstone back behind, because the recipient will never know. There's no point in using gemstones that are not going to be seen. We're going to add some little dabs of glue then and just start placing our jewels in place. I love the little additional sparkle these add to the overall design. A crystal katana is such a fantastic tool to have, as it makes picking up teeny tiny little embellishments and putting them right where you want them to go so easy. Once I have embellished my flowers around my wreath, my second card is all finished. We just have to attach this to a card base and we're ready to go. So there's a little bit closer look at the finished card design. How pretty is that? Great different color combination for the holidays. One of my favorites. I think it's super elegant and just so pretty. There you can see those gemstones. Next, we're going to use the Shimmer Oval die. This is another brand new die for December, using the Spellbinders Tool-in-One again to get all those little pieces out. Anything that didn't come out, I'm just going to pierce with the piercing end of the tool to finish that up. This time we're using some Palm Hero Hues cardstock for the background. Here's our traditional Christmas colors card. At first, I will be real honest, I didn't know if I was going to like this card, but with the addition of some additional dies, this one might very well be one of my favorites. If you guys have followed me at all throughout the holiday season, you will know that I am a traditional girl at heart. I love red, white, and some green for Christmas. Even though I really do love my gray and white and silver, or yeah, I guess, and my navy and silver, I love all of those. But in my home, I tend to gravitate towards red and white. And so this card I'm creating here ended up just, I don't know, I just love it. I really love mixing and matching dies from other releases together to see what you can get. I'm going to be using the Pinkfresh, no, I'm lying, I'm so sorry. The Lawn Fawn Artichoke ink to create the plaid there, using the Concord and 9th plaid background. So again, all of this is exactly the same. We're just stamping the plaid background on the frame portion. We're going to inlay the actual shimmer die cut in this. Then to create the alternating colors on the plaid, instead of white this time, I went with a kind of grayish black. This is the Pinkfresh Studio Licorice ink. And I would not call it a true black. To me, it's a very deep gray, but I love it. And it's going to create a great contrast, but not be super white against the background. I just didn't want white on this. I don't know why, but I really ended up loving this plaid. I think it really translates well. It definitely says Christmas to me. And we're also going to be backing this with gold glitter cardstock. So we've used white, we've used silver, and now we're going to get to the gold. So everyone sing along, silver and gold, I guess. But I love the gold with the green. I think it really works nice. We're going to back our frame with adhesive, pop our glitter cardstock back behind this, and then this I'm going to use the Joyful die again. I love that Joyful die. You're going to be seeing that on another project soon as well, just because I love it and I've been using it a ton. I love all of Kathy Zielski's designs for Simon Says Stamp. This is one of hers, and it's just definitely her vibe, and I love it. I love the font. So in addition to the joyful word, and then we're going to have a little stamp phrase again, I am taking one of my favorites from just a couple releases back, the Christmas Foliage die. And this actually you combine, there's several different dies in this, but greenery dies. So I have die cut greenery, berries, leaves from not only the palm cardstock I used for the background and the shimmer oval inlay, but we're going to use pesto. That's the lighter color. These are Hero Hues, Hero Arts cardstock colors. Love them. The red berries, this is Hero Arts cranberry cardstock. I love, love, love the Hero Arts cardstocks. They're beautiful. And we're going to create two groupings, one in that bottom right corner and one in the upper left corner. And we are just going to kind of group them together. Now I want to make sure that I attach my little flag banner here. This is another one of those nested banners, but this is the angled one. This one is a little bit longer than the notched flag ends of the other banner, which worked better for this sentiment from Ho Ho Postage called Happiest of Holidays, which I stamped, and I embossed this one with antique gold Simon Says Stamp embossing powder. The gold definitely works better with the gold of this design. And then we're going to build our foliage. And I've got my branch there with the little berries. And then I've got a couple of leaves, and I'm going to layer the leaves. Since the leaves are the same color as the background, I layered those on the pesto color just a little bit, offset them a little bit because I thought it helped them stand out. But I didn't want to have all of the leaves be that pesto color. I wanted some of that darker palm green as well, and I think that works really nice. And the nice little pop of red, you guys probably already know this if you follow me, but I love a pop of red on a card, and this is the first one in the 3 cards I made today that has a pop of red. And that little grouping looks so pretty, but it looks even better when you frame up the top as well. It just frames up the sentiment. It frames up that gorgeous shimmer oval so beautifully. These cards, the backgrounds, the shimmer oval, the shimmer wreath, and the shimmer snowflake are the stars of the show. They make those backgrounds pop. They are so intricate, so detailed, but I hope with this video it shows you how easy they are to use. If you have one of those tools with the little rolling end to it, you can pop that stuff out so easy, and it's just a really beautiful, elegant background, and there's many other techniques you can use with these dies as well. So we will finish off this last grouping here. And then the last thing I did was take glossy accents, and I have a fine tip applicator on my glossy accents, and we are going to add that to any of the red berries on our card design. And just like our other cards, I have got some pretty pink posh jewels. These are the gold jewels that we will adorn some of the flowers in the background. Very subtle, but it does add a great little look to the background. And this is very even. I have my sentiment through the center, so I've got 3 gems above and 3 below, and it just is very even. Everything on this card is very equal. If it's on the top, it's on the bottom, even though it's kind of reversed. So just a little bit different color of jewel here to match this particular card. And then our glossy accents, which I will let sit and completely air dry. I actually left it and went and did some other things for a few hours and then came back to it. But that is it for our 3rd card. So let's take a quick peek at all 3 cards again using the different shimmer dies from the December 2019 Simon Says Stamp release. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 3 shimmer inlay holiday cards featuring dies from Simon Says Stamp. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Simon Says Stamps and dies that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making or paper crafting video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Happy holidays, and we'll catch you next time.